Hi everyone, my name is Khaled with KINETIQ, and today I'm going to walk you through another super common problem that we see every time we talk to operations leaders, and that is the challenge of being able to respond to upstream issues in your production. So obviously you can see and you know when the line goes down. However, it's really hard to analyze the impact of everything that is going to break downstream. And that's because of a lack of visibility, real-time intelligence, and the data infrastructure to support your team when they need to do that. And so the big issue that we see a lot of the times when we talk to folks in this situation is, of course, everyone knows when a stoppage has happened. That's visible immediately to the entire team. But what isn't visible is which production orders are now most at risk, which customer commitments are likely to be affected or impacted, and by how much, and whether there's enough buffer somewhere else in your system to absorb it or not. And most often what we find is that the data to solve this problem already exists, but it just lives somewhere else and isn't available to the people and systems that need it to figure out how to minimize the impact of a stoppage. So, of course, this means that the stoppage was recoverable, but the response wasn't fast enough. And what this actually costs the business and the teams who are trying to drive the results are, number one, the floor is able to respond to the stoppage, of course, but they don't know and they aren't able to mitigate the impact to the rest of the production schedule. The downstream impact gets discovered later on when a commitment is already in jeopardy and you have to have an uncomfortable conversation with a client or with a customer. Those customer conversations then happen reactively after the miss, not before it, not while you can still save the relationship or the impact to that relationship. Of course, every event gets managed in isolation because no one's able to connect the picture and assess root causes. And of course, that cost compounds, not necessarily because it was unrecoverable, but because we weren't able to act in time to recover. And so the way we solve this and what we've seen people do to succeed in overcoming these issues is, number one, every event becomes something that you can act on. This is a mindset that you get when your data and your real-time intelligence is there for your team when they need it. And so what this looks like is if a production event surfaces, you can actually understand the downstream impact to your orders, to your commitments, to your production schedule immediately or in near real time. Your plant managers know what it means, not just that there was a stoppage, but they know what the impact will be and the effect on the commitments that they've already made. That way, you can be in a situation where your response is informed. You can adjust, absorb, communicate, and flex as needed as opposed to being reactive. And it's all about giving you that adaptability and resilience using the data that you already have. Your customer commitments can be managed proactively. Sometimes things are unavoidable, but of course, it's better to have that conversation earlier rather than later. And finally, every event is something you can act on, not something you just have to be aware of, but are kind of powerless to mitigate the impact of. Now, we've seen and worked with folks going on this journey to go from isolated incidences to a connected response. And where a lot of folks are today is they have stoppages that are clearly visible to everybody, but the downstream impact isn't visible until it's too late. And so your response is always one step behind. And where you're trying to go is you want to have one picture across production, across your schedule and across commitments so that you can see when something is going wrong, you can figure out what the impact is going to be and work towards mitigating that impact. Now, a lot of folks need to know where to get started to make this happen. And so what we do is we partner with operations and IT leaders to create a blueprint. And this is a focused diagnostic where we identify where disconnected data is turning manageable events into downstream surprises. We define what a connected picture would look like to build and put a price tag on what it is costing the organization today so that we can prioritize where to maximize your investment so that you have a business case and an architecture to start with and your team knows where to begin. So if this is something that sounds familiar to you and your team is dealing with it today, you can check out the QR code here or get in contact with our team with the link below. And we'll work with you to figure out how to get started and where you can make this happen with your team.